We are live, Anthony Melchiori. Where are we? What's going on? I have no idea what's happening.
We're in Central Park, baby.
Oh, look at that. That's absolutely beautiful. I wonder where we are. Anthony, stay tuned. Let's find out.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. I'm Glenn Hausman. That's Anthony Melchiori over there. Mystery guest over here. Can't reveal him just yet. You don't see him. He's invisible. Oh, we're at the Pierre Hotel today. How cool is that, Anthony?
It's one of my favorite hotels in the city and one of the most exclusive hotels in the world. And I'm walking towards you. So you guys can start the show, and I'll just be your cameraman.
Let's welcome to the show the one, the only, the general manager here at the Pierre Hotel in New York, Francois-Olivier Luiggi. How are you, sir?
Great, thank you. So glad to have you back at the Pierre.
It is so, and listen, I'm just fortunate that you let me back after the last time here at the Pierre. So I'm excited about that.
It's great. The door is always open.
Well, thanks so much. So the last time we were here, we were right in the thick of COVID. People were just starting to come out and do things again. You didn't have any food and beverage here. It was kind of early on. And the reason why I bring it up is I don't like looking back anymore. I love looking forward on here. But I think a lot of going the forward includes where we were at that time. How's that experience been for you?
Yes, it was very difficult, obviously, but we focused on how to reopen and get all our customers back. Mm-hmm. So that took the effort of the entire team here. And, I think 2022 turned out to be like the best year in the Pierre history. So
that is absolutely incredible. We'll talk about that as soon as Anthony gets here. But Anthony, what are we looking at? Can you hear us?
Well, I'm walking up. So
I will tell you, your Wi-Fi reception reminds me of of the early days of COVID, with everybody trying to figure out. There he is, with everybody trying to figure out the internet. All right, so Anthony, you're frozen, so we're gonna have to let you go. So 2022, best year ever. Who would have seen that coming, Francois?
I know. It took the team, we got together trying to figure out how to best, what to reopen, what and when. Mm-hmm. But it was clear immediately that the sort of the top end, high spending leisure traveler was the first customer back. Mm-hmm. So all we saw immediately is families traveling together, family reunion, people booking large suites, staying for a long time. I mean, the length of stay tripled to almost 7 days.
Wow.
So statistics that are really completely shocking when you know New York is a 1-2 night stay.
Right.
And we average almost 7 nights at the beginning of 2022.
Wow. That is that is absolutely huge. So at the beginning of 2022, I think that was just when that final variant kind of got through, right?
Who remembers?
Yeah, exactly. I'll tell you, it's such a blur. But I think when I was here, I remember we were still doing masks and all of that kind of stuff. And I set up this station 20 times farther away from you. You know, we had to communicate via hand signals because we couldn't hear each other. We were so far from each other. So 7 days in New York stays. What were they doing for that period of time?
So it's interesting because when you remove business travelers, the travelers that are coming to New York all the time, you're left with people who have lots of questions. They are looking for concierge services, guidance, help. And actually, we realized we spend a lot more time with our guests than we've ever did before. Mm-hmm. And I think this is why hotels like ours that are normally geared towards, really helping the customer, holding their hands. We did really well because we had the answers, we had the staffing. Of course, here we have the best concierge team in New York, I think, with Maurice Dancer and Yvette Monroe, who run the place for us. We're very lucky with them. But we realized we end up spending a lot of time with our guests, really a lot of time with them.
And that, I think, is really essential. So what did you learn in terms of customer behavior? And that's one of the things we try to do here on No Vacancy Live, is really share those kinds of insights with people. So how are people kind of behaving now as opposed to in the past? And by the past, I mean it could be anything before 2020 as well.
So of course, 2022, most of the clientele was domestic, US. So I think it was a rediscovering New York City for everybody, including for people who live in the area, in the Tri-State area. People rediscovered New York, enjoyed New York, went back to see shows, went downtown, took boat rides. It was really interesting. The amount of things we were booking over 7 days. There's a variety of activities, restaurant, different styles, and also venturing out to the outer boroughs to see different things.
I think they've stopped doing that again. Going out to the outer boroughs.
I live in Brooklyn. We like to not have a million tourists crowd our restaurant, but still, it's nice it's nice to have people come.
That's really funny. You should say that, because my instinct is to say don't tell anybody about what neighborhood you're in Brooklyn. Because when I was living in Brooklyn, I lived in Park Slope for a number of years. I'm safe to say that because I don't live there anymore. And then I lived in another community, Kensington, and they got so crowded and popular, and the dining scene in Park Slope in particular just soared, all right, so here he comes. Anthony, welcome back. So how are you feeling, Anthony, being here again and seeing all the changes? We have yet to talk about the change to this incredible ballroom we're in right now.
Well, I feel like a little Q-tip between two bigger Q-tips.
Here you go. Let's get that a little bit closer to you.
What was your beautiful question?
We were just saying that we did not discuss the room we were in, but I do want to start off by saying, so what was it like coming back here? The last time we were here, we were telling Francois as a bookmark to how much has changed since we were here in 2021.
Well, you know what it felt like? It felt like every place we went, right? It felt like we were all half dead, making believe we weren't.
Yeah.
We were all kind of like, hey, how you doing? Good. We're good. We're going to get there. We're going to open it.
Yeah, right.
Everything's going to be fine. But we're all walking around like, what the hell just hit us?
Yeah.
So it's good to come in here and to see, like, almost where, not forgotten, but it's just back to business. And we'll walk in and walk into this ballroom. The last time we were here, it was under construction.
Yes.
And to see how beautiful it is. And that wall that you were showing me before.
Yeah. Very impressive.
Why don't we talk about the wall, and I'll show a picture of
All right.
as you guys talk through.
All right. So let's just give a little backstory. So the last time we were here, Francois, you were in the process of reinventing this ballroom. Right? For those of you who don't know, I think the best place to start is how historic of the building this is, and a little bit of the history to set the stage for the context of what we're talking about here.
Yeah. So the Pierre has had hosted events for 93 years. So I think it was also time for renovation, right?
Yeah.
And the ballroom is very important. Half our revenue comes from banquet. So it's extremely important. And it was time to redo all the HVAC systems and all that. So we took an approach trying to think, what does the guest want? What kind of customers we get? And we put a very complicated program together, very, very sophisticated, and hired a dozen consultants and try and pull it together. And it took 2 years of work. And we had our first wedding here in March 2022. That's when it officially opened.
That is amazing. All right, Anthony, let's hear what you have to say. Hopefully, we won't get much feedback because you're.
Well, what's behind this wall?
I need to open it for you. What we did is we wanted a room that can be used both for weddings and conferences. So the wall opens up, and I should give you a hand. It takes two people.
So why don't you run? Why don't you run over?
No, we only did one person.
Oh,
look at him. He is actually opening the wall. Look at that. Yes.
Makes for a great visual. Look
I
at that.
think this is the fanciest air wall you've ever seen. It weighs probably 5,000 pounds.
My goodness.
But
Anthony, your workouts are really paying off right now.
It's really paying off. So when you open, the entire wall slides open, and you can see the biggest LED wall in New York.
Right.
We put connection points in every corner of the ballroom, so no matter what the clients want, they can set themselves up in anywhere they want. You'll never see a cable taped on the wall. You'll never see cable tape for up lighting. Yep. All the lighting is the best we could get. LED, a million colors, anything possible. And you can put one thing that was important is to custom order all the light fixtures in the ceiling, all the stage lights, so they are the same color as the room, so they blend in.
Yeah, it's like you notice them, but they don't steal your attention once you notice them. It fades in really nicely into the background. And I think that's really what you're trying to do, is set the stage.
Yes.
Now, this room is lit right now, very, very white light. But what I love about LEDs, the technology's gotten to the point that you could have any kind of colors, and you could even do different patterns and really help create emotion and scene through that.
Absolutely. A lot of our events have entertainments, music, and every single light in the ceiling, so thousands of them can be changed. We've had singers perform great music awards, and then they're able to do better lighting than most theaters in New York, or as good as.
And when you come in, the first thing you notice is it's not.
Sorry, I had your channel off.
The first thing you notice when you walk in, it's not over designed. If anything, you're like, wow, it's minimalist, but it's because you can make it anything you want. And one of the things I was taking pictures of or video of was all the sockets, all the electric outlets on the walls.
Yes.
Right now, one of the things that a lot of people won't know is when you're having, whether it be a video shoot, or I've heard you had some TV series shoots here, or there's a lot of power that those cameras and that those shows drain. So tell me about those big plugs on the wall and why those are so important. Because most people that don't run hotels in New York City don't understand.
I want you to know we carefully craft these talking points. So Francois has been working out this one for 6 months now.
No, but the power is a problem, right? We had to have a 200 amp panel put in for the ballroom, and have the special connection throughout, so you don't have to run cables on the floor. Some of you, all of us, have attended conferences where they run cables everywhere and you step over them. Here, you will never see a cable anywhere. There is the right power in every corner with the right connection, and they're all programmable. Actually, the computer room, just to run this ballroom, is 600 square feet room, just with the back end to make this room function.
Wow, that's like 2,000 square feet in any other city.
Yes, it's like 2,000. Yeah, it would be 2,000.
Now, are you allowed to talk about the number it costs to renovate this?
Yes.
We haven't talked about that.
Yeah. The decor is beautiful, of course. It's a handmade stucco, Italian marble, and all that. But that's not really the cost that's important.
All right.
What's important is just soundproofing the room so it has the right acoustics. Costs $4 million.
Oh,
Just the acoustics.
Well, because it including rebuilding all the ductwork, all the way the room was constructed.
right.
The room is floating, actually. This is the right word.
Yeah.
The entire room is floating. Things are hanging off springs in the ceiling. The whole room
Right.
floats, so it doesn't take any vibration beyond the space. It's pretty amazing. So that was very, very expensive, and it's $1.5 million of tech.
I mean, this would all be expensive under normal circumstances, but you're dealing with a building here that's over 90 years old, and there's probably some historic elements to it as well.
Yes, and we were actually, our owners were lucky that Taj and the owners of the building decided to go through during COVID. That allowed us to push a little more than we could have done in a normal hotel if you had full occupancy.
And what's important, and you've heard me say this before, but what's important about a hotel like this, first of all, it's a legacy hotel where your grandmother got married here, your great-grandmother got married here, your probably great-grandmother probably created the beer.
Yes.
And
She knew
you're having then you're having your wedding here. So it to be perfect and to be remembered as what you used to be is really important, but also to have the technology of today. And if you could imagine, these rooms don't go for $99. So if you're staying in one of these beautiful suites and you hear somebody's wedding music, that's really sweet till about 10 o'clock at night.
Right, that's right.
And then you're like, I hope you get divorced before you leave.
Yeah, it reminds me of when we did a great show. I'm bringing this up as a shameless plug. We were at the TWA Hotel just a few weeks ago with Tyler Morse, CEO of MCR, and they were I thought how quiet it was. They were talking about 6-inch windows that they have there to keep the sound out. So this is pretty serious stuff, right?
No, and I love that hotel, by the way. And yes, it's very completely soundproof. So here, the same issue. The sound travels in a building with a steel frame. So here, it's completely silent. You won't hear a noise if you're the floor above. But also the room itself, it has Italian marble. The acoustics would be terrible, just marble and wall, if you didn't have the right material used in the room to absorb all the sound.
Well, just us three in this empty room should be bouncing off the walls.
And it's not.
Not at all. It sounds like we're
everywhere.
Yeah, it sounds like we're in a soundproof.
Are you talking about sound or my mental state?
Well, you know about that. But you know, it's so difficult, and that's why professionals like yourself and owners that understand the level of service that you're providing, how many times have I say in a day, everything matters.
Yes.
Every single thing. What's the one nuance about this room that maybe you won't see or you won't even think about, but if you didn't do it, or people would notice besides the
so purely business, right? We have social events like weddings, and then we have corporate events like big launch, stocks presentation or financial roadshows. And you don't want a conference where people get married, and people don't want to get married where there is a conference. So the room really transforms. When you push that wall open, that makes a huge difference, because suddenly you can take one entire wall of the ballroom and turn this room into what's suitable for a big conference.
Right.
And that's really key. And then we set it up one way for one client, and then we close the wall, change all the lighting, and make it look like somewhere you want to get married.
And that's such an important, because there's a lot of hotels that have a lot of ballrooms or a lot of meeting space. You have limited meeting space. Yes. So having this room do a lot of things.
That's a great point.
And absolutely, the Pierre, we are one of the few places we can turn this room in an hour. And we did actually a time-lapse video where we turned the room from a conference all set up with screens and stage into a fundraising gala dinner in 1 hour.
Wow.
And now with all the lighting, which is remote control, closing the wall, opening the wall, the team is amazing. We're able to do 2 events in one day, where most venues would have to do either or. Either you do a conference or you do a dinner.
Right. So what we're really talking about here is utilizing technology in the right way to gain that competitive edge, because you are competing against not only every other hotel in the city, but other markets as well. Right. So you really need to capture people's attention. So by having that flexibility, it really works out for you. And I think
it helps pay the bill.
It definitely helps pay the bills. And the fact that you were able to do it at the time period you did it, and I mean, it's from a technology point of view, you were able to incorporate all of this incredible LED stuff, which 5 years before would have been much more expensive and a lot less practical.
And also it wouldn't exist because, like uplights, we can only go 3 inches down the concrete slab. I mean, I can't, the building is already existing. So a lot of the new lighting technology is very shallow and is really able to be incorporated in the existing building structure.
Listen, I know you have feelings about the lighting, but you don't have to get personal with it.
Exactly.
Shallow, yes. And you know what? It'll never get old. Your bad jokes.
Seriously. Well, now that I've been a dad for 19 years, I'm really rolling on them.
So what's the one surprise you've heard from guests that you expect? Is there one thing that you've heard from guests that you're like, wow, that's really nice to hear, that maybe you weren't considering?
So, I mean, what I think is more impressive is to get a compliment from a corporate guest than a social guest. Obviously. Right. People get married. They always compliment about the service. We have an amazing banquet team. We have captains and the salespeople work the event. They really handhold the guests. But what's impressive is to get a compliment from a corporate client who does 300 events a year.
Wow.
Right.
So those are, and I got really good one because apparently New York is an expensive city.
Yeah, I've heard that. I think maybe the most expensive city in the world.
So not having to book the ballroom a day before to set up shaves out a big cost, and that puts us competitive again. So because everything is half built in, they can come really early in the morning, set up for a lunch conference, do a dinner, and they save 1 day of setup at the Pierre, I would say.
Right.
So that was a compliment. I remember because they're like, they never believe it would be possible in New York, but it is possible.
Wow.
Yeah, that is such an important part, and I'm glad you shared it with the audience, because when people are coming up in their careers, they learn these things the hard way, right? They come over, maybe they're helping. I love these consultants who are 23 years old that just come out of college,
I know.
right? And they're consulting for people.
Well, they're making 150 grand a year, so they must know something.
Yeah, but they wouldn't know what you just said. It's like, how do we set this up so people can save money?
Yeah.
So they don't have in New York City. I heard it's expensive.
But not only
I just parked my car.
but you're also going to be able to earn more money, because when you flip the room quicker, you can get more food and beverage.
Well, of course, and I can do 2 events in one day. I can do a breakfast, lunch, a financial roadshow conference, and then at 4:00 I reset for a 5:00 dinner cocktail reception.
And you know who's really happy? Your employees, because they get a lot of business.
Yeah. For sure.
They love it, and also it's very efficient.
So what's going on right now with events in New York City? Because a lot of the major cities got slammed, and places like Vegas have really taken off and that sort of thing.
We've seen that we're probably between 60-70% of the business level of 2019. So there's still ways to go.
60-70% of overall business or corporate business?
A corporate.
Total business.
A total business.
Right. And of course, good point. If you do on the social side, we're back to 2019, meaning every Saturday is booked and most Sundays or Thursdays.
Right. Think weddings, other
so that's
family
all
engagements.
those things. But fundraising dinners are back because raising money for charity remote or on Zoom doesn't work. The people need to be in the space.
Yeah.
So those are back. So that's 2 out of 3 big market segments that are back. The one that's really behind is all the financial, all the corporate meeting, big conferences. These are not back, or they are back, they are canceled, they changed the date 3 times, or they book 3 weeks in advance.
And is that financial, or is that because most of their employees are just scattered?
I think it's so many things. First, financial roadshow, they need to have IPOs and things to sell and product to present and CEOs to meet. So that's a component also. There's less deals. And then the people traveling and getting people together, selling product, it's all very complicated. But all we know is those who have been successful had to really change the format. We've had one client, instead of doing, the typical round table with like 5-6 chairs facing a stage, they did seating booth, sofas, couches, coffee tables.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot more of that now.
People, and they switched the people around between each talk and really encourage meaningful connection between people by literally putting sofas and coffee table instead of your typical banquet furniture. So that's the level you have to push at to get the people to travel and go to a conference.
Well, it seems to me that people are so isolated that when they say conference, people are more motivated to go because they don't have to go to the office. I know. Yeah. Listen, you say Vegas to me and Glenn, and we're on a plane, right? Because I don't really travel outside of New York and Vegas or maybe California.
I know.
Because everything's been canceled, but there's so much business in Vegas that we're there all the time.
Although we'll be in Phoenix. We'll be in Phoenix next week, so that's exciting. So we're going somewhere else.
Oh, yeah, you won some award or something.
I thought you won someone.
Oh, you won.
Maybe we both did. We'll tell you more about that next week. But just to clarify, of course, we're here in the luxury segment, which is a little bit different than we were talking about the general hospitality industry and events. But there are a lot of parallels that are there. One of the things that we've been seeing, according to our friends over at Noland, I had their CEO, I did a quick chat with him a couple of weeks ago. He's saying that there are a lot more smaller meetings these days that have more people attending. And it's really the largest ones that are having the biggest event. So if you're going to have an event, they're bigger. Is that correct? Is that something you're seeing here?
Yes, it's kind of all over the place, I have to tell you. Yeah. We've had some clients where the events have grown so big that we lost them because I think after 500 plus people. So we've lost 2 or 3 huge conferences because now they're going to the 600-700 people.
Right. And here, let me just add to that. Here in New York City, space is very specific. Yes. So we did the NYU Hospitality Investment Conference at the beginning of June. They could only do it at that particular hotel, the Marriott Marquis, because of the needs.
Because of the size, yes. Right. So we are losing clients because they go so big, and we are taking clients from smaller venues where they're stepping up to the 300-400 people space. Of course, we want all our clients to be successful, but we'd like them, to stay within 500. That makes us happy.
Or just say you guys come from 9 to 12, and then the other 500 come.
I like that. You can do a separate ticketed event. I like that. Yeah.
But what's great about this?
Do you know what we saw? I remember another thing is that companies would combine 3-4 programs back to back, so the team only travel once. We've seen that happen also to save costs, but also be more efficient. So one company, 2-3 program back to back.
Interesting.
So are we allowed to talk about that thing we're not allowed to talk about?
I'm not sure what we're talking about.
So we're not talking about. But we'll talk about it.
All right.
So one of the things that I loved being in hotel business, but running hotels, is you never know who's going to walk into your office and say, hey, I need. So when I was there at the Plaza at 1990, Tom Civitano. Do you know Tom Civitano?
Yes, yeah, of course.
Okay, so he's a legend in our industry. He was the marketing officer at the Plaza, and somehow he got the Home Alone 2 crew to be at the Plaza.
Not bad, yes.
Right? Not bad, right? And he's actually got a cameo. And when you see that Macaulay Culkin sliding across the floor. I did that with my team because we had to pull up the carpet. Anyway, but like that's fun because like, as a young kid coming in this business, I was a manager. Like you're like, what? The #1 movie in the world is being filmed in our hotel.
Yeah.
Now we're cursing and screaming because we have to move the front desk. It was, you know what it is.
It's a lot of work.
So anything happen like here at this hotel, like with TV sets or Netflix specials or HBO Max specials?
We were part of a Netflix special, yes, but actually a lot of TV shows are shot here. If you like Billions or Successions.
Yeah, the last time we were here, Billions was
Well, we can
filming.
talk about
Yeah.
it. No, Succession was here.
Succession, that's right.
and
Sorry.
both of them,
Yeah.
But yes, no, we were, the Pierre was featured in a Netflix documentary called Working. So one of 3 industries that are featured, and it's really trying to follow people and what they do at work, what work means to them. And it's really interesting. It's a 4-part series, and they cover healthcare, hospitality, and tech.
Yeah, and I mentioned Francois before we went on. That's very much in the similar vein of what you're doing, trying to promote the hospitality industry and how fantastic of a business it is for us.
Yeah,
to
we
be
have.
in.
I don't know if you saw it on my social media. We have a new show coming.
Yeah,
out.
I saw it's exciting.
Yeah, so maybe we'll work together.
We should do, because if those people who watch the show really, they comment that in our industry, you still have upward mobility.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can still start an entry-level job and finish general manager one day. It is possible. And I tell that to everybody. They think not to believe it, but you really, if you want to, but you can have a whole career even doing one job in our industry. It pays well. It's fun work. You have great colleagues. You have fun. It's a great industry. And if you want to move up, you can move up.
And what the key is when you're younger is being around mentors and environments that you'll really learn from the best. And we're both mentoring someone. There was a kid I'm mentoring who's now here, and he's doing great. You said
He's doing great.
Right.
Do you know what I think is different from when we started in the business is that when we started, there was one way to do things. Right. And it was pretty clear you had to step one and a million jobs in a long career. Today, I think there's so many options. People cannot, not everybody can visualize what a career in our business would be because it could be so different. So mentoring sometimes is just trying to help people see a path for themselves, and they can be very successful.
Right.
But when you were young in this business, and maybe we've had different experiences when, I'm sorry.
I was just going to add some context. He was an intern at the Essex House in summer of '91 and summer of '92. So
okay, so we were right next door.
Yeah, can you believe that?
What the hell was my point? So
I'm sorry.
Oh no, that I don't know about you, but when I was coming up in this business, I was petrified of my bosses. No one's petrified anymore.
No.
Were you nervous? If your
Oh my
boss
God,
said
yes,
go
no.
outside and beat yourself in the head, you do it.
No, but if your boss would come down to your department, you are frozen in fear.
Is anybody frozen in fear
I
anymore?
was an assistant manager in room service at the Essex. If the GM came down through the thing, he was a very nice man, by the way. It was a great guy, but when you saw him, you're like, stop breathing.
Right.
And he says hello or something, and then you breathe again,
Right. And, I worked for someone the opposite of that. We won't mention his name, but you know him. I'll mention him later. And I was petrified of the man. And today, the workforce is different. There's a lot more flexibility. There's a lot more transparency.
Yeah.
And you can really kind of get a job where you want a job in any state because of the transparency.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you said something very interesting when I was coming in the ballroom, is that people sometimes when they see this beautiful hotel with this legacy, that they get, they get scared. They're like, maybe I shouldn't apply.
Yes.
So talk about that.
No, and it's crazy. Like you should never be intimidated by any workplace.
right.
You should go. You just go. You should feel comfortable in the product. It's like music. You like some type of music or whatever. Some people may be more comfortable in a resort or casual setting or more formal setting.
Right.
That's fair. But otherwise, just don't get hung up by the look and feel of the place. You should feel, you should feel like, as long as you're compatible with the product, you work in a restaurant, pick a food you like if you're not sure, but you can really work anywhere. Am I making sense?
No, it makes perfect
Some kind
sense.
of
And I think that's kind of when I was growing up in this industry, working at the Pierre was like, oh my God. It's like if somebody said, Anthony, you can work at the Pierre as assistant manager,
Right.
I would have given my right leg for it. And now it's more approachable. because people don't understand. And that's one of the reasons the show is so important, to show this is approachable.
Yes.
You know, this is approachable. You can make really good money. You can have a great career. You
Yeah.
can move anywhere in the world. How many countries have you worked in?
Any countries?
How many countries have you
About
worked in?
20 or 30.
You've worked in 20 or 30
Yeah.
countries. 20 or 30 countries.
Something like
That's
that.
insane.
Some of my assignments were a couple of months. I didn't
Yeah, but you
spend 1
still
year,
counts.
But it still counts, yes.
Yeah.
20 or 30.
Yeah,
Isn't
so
that
it's-
amazing?
I like jaw dropping.
How many countries have you worked in?
Let me see. That'd be one, unless you count like work, doing something on stage in Canada.
I've
you
been
know?
to 50 countries, but I've only worked in one.
That's amazing.
20
That-
plus. No, it's we want people who want to serve guests. I guess that's the key. You have to wake up in the morning, want to serve people, then you belong in the service industry. You have to wake up and feel
Right.
excited.
You know, it's taken me 30 years, and I said this on a podcast a couple weeks ago, to realize I'm not a person that likes people like, oh, I like people. I like people, but like I'm
Yeah.
also discerning. It's
Right.
like I like my space. But I learned why I love this business so much. I like making people happy.
Yes.
Even people I don't like, even people that I wouldn't be friends with, even people that are just strange or whatever.
Right.
I love
Yeah.
making everyone that comes in my orbit happy.
Yes.
If you're a person that really likes, and then again, it's not about liking to serve, but I want
You're
to,
right. It's
I wanna
making
make
people
people
happy.
happy.
Yes.
Right.
And then help them get what they want.
right, that person that said to you,
Yeah.
thank you for saving money, because now that I can come here and just set up in one day and have my show
Mm-hmm.
in one day, it all works out. Why that makes them happy or her happy is because, one, they have efficiency, but two, they can go to their boss and say, look, boss, I'm in New York. We did this great show and I saved money.
Which is very
Makes them
very
happy.
unusual, yes, to say you save money in Europe. But yes, no, it's a big deal. No, you have to have that passion inside, and I think just speaking for New York City,
Right.
it's such an international city. People come from so many different reasons, whether it's diplomatic business, fashion shows, wedding businesses, banking, that you need to be able to adjust, and actually it makes the job more fun, I think.
Yeah.
Because you have so many different types of guests.
The job is fun. Like somebody said to me the other day, something about which job's most stressful. And I was like, any job, you can sell frankfurters, which I have in high school, or you could work in a hotel.
Right.
Any job is stressful
Yeah.
if you have that mindset.
Yeah.
Now, I just spoke to somebody in Vegas who's the chairman of one of the biggest hotels in the world. And I asked him, I
Yeah.
said, how do you handle stress? You know what he says to me?
What
I don't
stress?
get stressed.
I don't get
And I looked at him.
stressed.
I went, what do you mean you don't get stressed? He goes, I don't get stressed. It's a perception. It's a perspective. Like you go into something with that energy, and that's what happens. So how do you handle it?
I would never call it stress, but it's a lot of pressure. But I think I like it because it's like I think
Right.
of it as the team tells me I'm too competitive. Like everything we have to win all the time. But that's kind of how I approach
Is that the
it.
point, though?
Yes.
Yeah.
Why- I don't know.
You don't get up in the morning to come in second.
Right.
No, I don't. So that's
I
hard,
do
but-
because it's a lot more comfortable because you don't have as much pressure on you as number one, and you're
but it's
up
for me,
and
it's not
coming.
pressure. It is how it is. So, but I need time off. I need to regroup. I like to be active.
Yeah.
I like to be in outdoors and stuff. So that really helps me. I think it's more recharging the batteries. Needs to be recharged so you have the energy. But I never feel really stressed.
But you just said something very interesting. You said you need to win. And what you mean is your owners need to win, your guests need to win, your
Yeah.
team needs to win.
Yes.
And you're not really caring about you winning, you're caring about making sure your team wins.
Yes. Yeah. No,
And-
the customer, everybody's happy. That's where you have to go. Nobody wants to have an average experience or an okay stay. That
Right.
doesn't really.
Yeah. Well, how was it, Pierre? It was okay. I mean, how many nights would you stay up if somebody said, "How was it, Pierre?" It was okay.
Oh, that would be terrible.
And you
Yes.
lost. You didn't
No,
win.
This is
But
bad,
one
yeah.
of the things that we talk about a lot is
Uh-huh.
motivation.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And one of the things that upsets me is when somebody says, "Well, how do you motivate your team?" And what I say is, you give your team a great environment, you give them the good benefits with a good salary, and you make sure you hired well. But you can't motivate somebody to come to work
Right.
and to
No.
take care of your guests. You can give them the tools, a great environment. Well, how do you feel about that?
No, correct. I think what we need to do is guide with sort of first time experiences with a specific kind of customer or event. For example, we have a lot of clients for the Met Gala, which is the big fundraising for the Metropolitan Museum.
That was what, like last month or something?
Yeah, it was in May.
Yeah.
So basically, for 2 days, the hotel gets transformed and has, activity 24 hours a day with hundreds of people, limousine. So you need to prep the team in advance. A lot of new people. This is what's going to happen. This is what you look for. And we rehearse and practice. So I think answering your question is that you need to help them succeed. That's how you motivate them. So at the end, we had a lot of new people at the front desk. They went through the Met Gala for 2 days and they came back and said, wow, but they were prepped. And then they're on stage and hopefully they all did quite well. So
Right.
that's how you motivate them. Just prepare them.
And one of the things that,
Yeah.
people don't understand, those people that you're talking about are people that are on the front page of People, that are in
Yes.
movies. And so you make one mistake, that could be front page national, international news.
No, and it's really basic stuff. You break it down to basic stuff. When you have 50 celebrities, they usually have fake names,
Right.
So you got to keep all those straight. Then the limo company all farm out all the cars because they have too many business. So people use fake names. The limo company is not the limo company you book. So to piece together one at the front desk, you have in your head, have to go, okay, that's the name, but that's not the right company, but they must have called 1, 2, 3, and you both, here it is. This is the car waiting for you.
Right.
What name do you travel?
Anthony Melchiori. Everyone leaves me alone. Sorry, I got to do this.
So we're trying to prep them for types of questions and things like that. And then people want to be able to answer questions. You have to be knowledgeable about what you do. And that takes training. And I think that motivates people because they had a great day.
My daughter worked in a 5-star hotel here in the city for a year during COVID. And she moved on to event planning for a private company. And I said, what did you learn for the hotel business? You know what she said?
You're trying to
Learned how
face
do
them.
things right.
Face wasn't Mike.
She goes, I learned how to do things right.
Yes, that's a good point, actually.
Yeah, she goes, you learn how to do things right.
Also on said hotel, you worked on the pre-opening team of that hotel that she worked at back in May of 2008.
Who worked on that?
Him.
Oh, the Mark Hotel. Yeah. We don't have to keep it secret.
Okay, you didn't mention it, so I wasn't going to start,
But yeah, she worked there for a year, and she says I learned it was very intense for her, and she learned how to deal with high income people and their needs, and she really learned to do it right the first time. There's no second chance.
And you really have to understand what the guest wants. That's the hardest part. You really have to get it right what they expect and then deliver. So yeah, it's
right the first time.
But it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun because the experiences like that only in New York. I mean, the concentration. There's other market that get all this, but New York, I think, is one of the cities that gets so many different types of events. Then we're getting ready now for the U.S. Open. Right. And after that, we take a break, and then it's the opening of the United Nations General Assembly. Oof. So it's like within 3 weeks, you have all the sports people and agents and deal making on this around the U.S. Open, and then you have a break, and then you start welcoming heads of states and big conferences.
My favorite call over the years? It's September when your friends call you and go, why are the rates so high in New York?
Yeah.
I'm getting these emails now. I said, can I get a room September 18 and 19? I'm like, why do I know that date?
Yeah,
you could get a room, just not in this city. Yes, I said, first of all, I say to people, why would you come to New York now? Unless you're speaking at the UN. Like you should come 3 days later.
Right.
But a lot of people are invited to speak at those doing events around there. And I think they should all put that they need a room paid by the people who invite.
But you know what's so funny is I get like the third tier person, like I haven't spoken to in 20 years.
Yeah.
It's like my friends who call me, I hook them up whatever I can do. But like the person I haven't spoken to in 20 years, Anthony, I know I haven't spoken to you. I see you doing good. I hope you're well. Why are the rooms so expensive?
Yeah, that's what we do.
But you know what? New York is one of those few cities that can handle. I remember one year it was like the UN was in town and there was, say, US Open, whatever it was. It was like 17 things going on at once. And it was like nothing. Like in any other cities, it would be like taking over the city.
But this practice makes perfect. I mean, this we do this year after year after year.
No professionals like you that run it.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Anything else before we wrap up today?
I asked too many questions.
No, you did not ask too many questions. This was a beautiful thing watching you work today. I loved it. I was honored to be in the same ballroom. with you. No, this has been great. I got a question for you, Francois, before we wrap up over here, because one of the common themes that we've had today is empowering younger people to be more successful. How do you deal with like no's and service mishaps and that sort of thing? Because we're all trying to be perfect, but we're not always going to hit that ability.
So, a very good point. You need to have an environment where it's okay to make mistakes, and you have to fess up and say, this is what happened, this is what I did, and we keep track of those for the sake of the guest, because the first thing is to make sure we can recover any service problems. The second thing is to learn how other people handled it.
Right.
The best way to learn is from a coworker, where you are watching what they do, and you do what they do, and you do the same thing. Learning from someone who does the same job you do is very important. But you need to speak, you need to share, you need to say, I had that problem, how do you handle it? I say, oh, that's what I do when someone says something like that. So you make a lot of mistakes, that's how we learn, obviously, but you need to speak up, ask how other people handled it, and you'll get great tips from your colleagues who've been doing the job. Even if it's 6 months more than you, they've already figured out quite a few things.
You curate hospitality.
Yeah.
You know, hospitality isn't in a binder. Hospitality is curated through those experiences. You know, one of the things when I take over a hotel when I was younger is I would do a room change. I would tell people, I would explain a room change. Why is making sure the room's perfect and you don't have to do a room change? Why is that important? Because if the guest comes in, they go to the room and the room is not what to their liking, what happens? They have to come down. They have to repack. Okay, so there's
Already
a million
bad,
things that happens, right? Then what do? They leave their wallet in the room.
All right.
Okay, and then they forget that their wallet's in the room.
Right.
And then they go to sleep, they wake up in the morning, and now they left without their wallet to the airport.
Right.
It's like that one mistake in a hotel causes 37,000 other problems that people don't realize. So it's important to do it right the first time, but to recover immediately and solve the issue of why that guest room changed. Was it the wrong room type? Was it that the bedspread wasn't right? In a lot of hotels, 3-4 star hotels, what they do is they solve problems, they don't prevent them.
Right.
And in luxury hotels, you
Interesting.
prevent them.
We must prevent them, because we are charging the guests more with sort of a guarantee that it will be flawless. Like we will, and on top of that, we'll try and anticipate what you want, try and figure out in advance what you have for this, you have for that, so let's make sure this happens to you. So yeah, we have an obligation, but I think every business needs some kind of zero defect policy and procedure and a way to keep track. Of course, we go through it every single day, but at least go through it every couple of weeks or something at minimum to really go over what happened so you can fix it. And things become pretty obvious when you look at the feedback and the data and you say, oh, it's funny, it's always that room on that floor or that line, or there's a noise in the plumbing or something. And then now you can fix it.
Right.
And not hide away from it.
Yeah, great point. I love it. And for those of you out there, keep learning along with us. Find us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, wherever you download your shows. We are there. Your Stitcher is going away, so we won't be on there.
It's going away? Where's it going?
It's being absorbed into Sirius XM or something like that. He's Anthony Hotels. I'm at Traveling Glenn. We got to update this because I'm off Twitter now, and I know we're both on that Threads thing. Or
Thread? Oh, yeah, we got to do Thread.
Yeah.
I'm threading.
Yeah, I know. I'm feeling very.
Are you threading?
Soon.
We're threading.
Yeah. So, all right, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. So for Francois, Anthony, and myself, remember you've got one life, so blaze on, and
Be kind to yourself.
see you all next time.